Quick question. This one comes in from Instagram. As the season comes to a close, what should I do to prepare for next season? So this is a big question. Probably got a bunch of answers, but what do you guys think are some of the big things you could do to prepare for next year?
Well, look, I know my tip. This is a tip that I gave myself a long time ago, that I gave other people before we were doing this show. I hate saying it because it sounds so self-serving, but the reality is this is the week where a lot of people are going to figure out they got in the playoffs or they just missed it. People listening right now are usually those that are still in that playoff hunt. There's a lot of you out there, and if you happen to fall on the bad side of
the dark side
of the playoffs this week, then you pack up shop sometimes. This is what I used to do back in the day a decade ago, is as soon as I was out of the running, if I didn't make the playoffs that year, I would kind of pack up my fantasy footballing. I'd stop paying attention.
Get a one-way ticket back to normal life.
Yeah, I mean, back then I would still listen to podcasts, and I would stop, and I would stop reading articles. I wouldn't care so much about watching the games. And it dawned on me after several years of this impacting me how much I missed going into the next year. Starting the next season, I was always behind the 8 ball of the teams that made the playoffs who were paying attention. The teams that kept listening, that knew the new guys. Look, there's going to be players that we haven't talked about so far this year that will be drafted next year based on what they do after today this season, because the actual NFL season, which all of it matters, not just the fantasy football season of the next 3 weeks, goes for the next 2.5, 3 months. We're not that far in. So my biggest piece of advice, this is the time of year when you quit listening. I would highly recommend listen forever, year-round.
Well, we are a year-round podcast, and that's why you got to tell some jokes about ad machines sometime. You got to keep it lively.
There are other pieces of, helpful tips as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is the reason this show even exists. We wanted a year-round show because there's stuff to talk about. Even through the NFL playoffs, we got our awards. Then we're turning the page to draft. You're getting into so many different things that you can be ahead of the game on, and it's just fun. We have a good time all year long. So
I know Mike and I have a book. We got a little notebook that.
Oh, I thought you wrote a book together.
No, that you don't want to read the writings of
ABCs
Jason.
from Mike and Jason.
Yeah, Mike,
not if our red deading last night had anything. Is in the book. We aren't good people.
But the thing is we've got a little notebook, each one of us, where we make notes as the year goes on of things we don't want to forget next year. It's simple. It's kind of, it's silly, but it's worth it because every year I look at that, in draft season, and I go, what was it that I wanted to remember last year? I never would have remembered it if I didn't jot it down. So maybe start a little fantasy football journal.
That's the Dear Diary.
Dear Diary. Please remember that rookie wide receivers are more of a second-half thing than a draft season thing.
There you go. Oh, hey, I was just doing some trades. Got some good players here. Why don't you click subscribe and I'll share my secrets.